Thank you, friends, for joining us for another great teaching from the Elite's Sacred Book of Knowledge, The Light of Egypt, or The Science of the Soul and the Stars. In this teaching, we will turn our attention to the physical activity that we call sex, and learn the spiritual aspects associated to it, both good and evil. This four-part teaching will help you to understand the idea of the Immaculate Conception and what we create and bring into this physical plane by lack of knowledge of the spiritual interventions which occur during the moment of conception and birth. For these reasons, the learned and elite people of today still practice these principles of ancient times when planning to conceive. For example, elites like Kanye West and Prince William both had their firstborns in the year 2013 under the Star of David, or rather, the Star of Bethlehem, an alignment of Jupiter and Venus, 1/3 degree apart in the sky, so close as to appear to the naked eye to be a single star. This event hadn't taken place in over 2,000 years. But the understanding of the gates through which all things ascend and descend, and also the power of words, then it was well that his daughter was named Northwest. In ancient times, religious and learned men did not have casual sex, for their coming together was solely for the purpose of procreation, and when they did, it was always under certain placement of the heavenly bodies, to ensure that the birth could be under perfect celestial conditions. For this very reason, Jesus and most of the babies during those times were brought before the high priest so that he could calculate the conditions and placement of the heavenly host, and therefore was able to refer to the parents if indeed they had ushered in what is termed an agreeable or a disagreeable being. The former representing to good aspects of the child, and the latter exposing it as evil. So now, without further delay, we present to you the mysteries of sex. It has been well said by an eminent occultist, man is most ignorant of those things which are most manifest. In some departments of nature this is true, and probably in no other manifested department of his being is this truth more strikingly apparent than in that which relates to his sexual nature. He is aware that animal nature is divided into two great classes, male and female, but he knows almost nothing of the spiritual principles which underlie this physical expression of sex. He is fully aware that the union of the two organisms is necessary for the purpose of procreation, but he is fearfully ignorant of those interior processes which produce the actual germs of life. He is more or less acquainted with the fact that in the lower stratus of animated existence, bisexual organisms are the general rule, and that, occasionally, this bisexual nature becomes manifested among men, as seen in the hermaphrodite. But he is quite at a loss to account for such monstrous productions. Hence, it may be truly said that man is most ignorant of those things which are most manifest. Therefore, in order to enable the general reader to clearly grasp the various connecting links and the mystical ramifications of sex, to see their perfect harmony, and to understand their relation to each other, we will first speak of the origin of sex. Secondly, describe, as clearly as possible, its nature and functions. Thirdly, point out the relation of the sexes to each other. And lastly, present a brief application of the whole as it relates to man, the universe, and the immortality of the soul. Part 1. The origin of sex. Deity is a unity that expresses or manifests itself as a duality. This is the eternal trinity of life, the infinite ocean of formless spirit within its latent bosom contains all that is, was, or ever can be. Therefore, it contains all the elements of sex in their primal state. When the first pulsations of that thought which evolved, the divine idea, became manifest, nature arrayed herself under the two modes of motion, action and reaction. The inbreathing and outbreathing of this divine thought in the earliest dawn of creation thus instituted the first spiritual attributes of sex. Each function of the deific soul, which we designate as inspiration and respiration, or action and reaction of the universal life current, thus became differentiated for all eternity as the primary fundamental principle of manifested being. The Kabbalistic initiates of the ages that are gone formulated this same valuing spirit as love and wisdom. Love, as the negative or feminine ray, is content and ever seeks to enfold. Wisdom, as the positive masculine ray, is restless and always in pursuit. The feminine forces are ever striving to encircle the atom, and the masculine forces striving to propel it in a straight line. From this dual action of the spiritual potentialities is born the spiral, the motion of life, and symbol of eternal progression. We cannot attempt any explanation of how the first deific forms of sexual life became ultimated, nor of the why and wherefore of this celestial existence. It is enough for us that we are enabled by the laws of correspondence to trace the origin of sex to the shores of the great fountain of all existence, and to proclaim it to the world as the first principle of that great central ego, God, from which all manifested egos derive their being. In order that we may comprehend somewhat of the mysteries of sex as we see them manifested in humanity, we must descend from these practically inconceivable heights of celestial glory and seek for the links of this continuous chain within the highest states of life approachable by the embodied human soul, the angelic sphere of the soul world. Only in these states can we obtain any definite idea of the interior significance of sex and its mighty importance as a factor in the immortality of the human soul. The first link of this celestial chain, as we have seen, lies concealed within the bosom of the Infinite One. What the succeeding ones may contain, we cannot tell, but that they will bear a perfect correspondence to the angelic state we are certain, making due allowance for the difference of their respective states. Since we know the origin of sex We will consider its correlatives, which we have designated as inspiration and respiration. That is the end, friends, of part 1. Be sure to join us for part 2, where we will learn the nature and functions of sex. If you haven't already, please subscribe and do us a favor, share and like the video. Thank you for watching. Our best regards to you all.